Hello, everybody, and
Uh-oh.
welcome to Community Cleric. There it is. I unmuted you, and I forgot to unmute me.
Oh no.
That's on me. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Community Cleric. I'm here with Gwen tonight. We are not live. I'll just throw that out right at the start, which has been like the routine for the last few weeks, and I apologize for that. We generally like to be live, but not everybody lives in Eastern time zone, and so we have to be really to get wonderful people who we want to talk to. We're going to be a little bit flexible, but you can send some love because Gwen will see all of this on VOD Squad later, and her details are going in to the chat, which is this way or that way. I forget which way which does it. I think it's this way. Yeah, I think it's this way. Maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Her details are going in. My name is Sarah, and I am streaming from, not live, but pre-recorded from Mi'kma'ki. This is the traditional and unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq people in Nova Scotia, Canada. So northeast of Maine, that all the way to the ocean. This is all Mi'kma'ki. We are treated land here. I am so thrilled to be here with Gwen, and like what a good week to be here because I have some very specific questions
Oh boy.
about some processes, but you don't have to share like all of your trade secrets. But mostly, I do just want to focus on you before I like geek out with you on publishing stuff.
Mhm.
So for those of you who don't know Gwen, Gwen is the two-time Emmy award-winning. Do you have them? Let's see them.
I do.
Let's see the
I have
hardware.
them. I've actually won 3 Ennies, but the first
Three.
one I had imposter syndrome, so I didn't ask for a medal. And now I
Oh.
regret it.
Can you not?
But yeah.
Will they not send you one now?
It was several years ago and they're stamped with the year. So I don't know if they're going to print the 2018 or whatever it was.
And what did you win in 2018?
It was also Uncaged. Uncaged Volume 3 won the best digital product or book. And I had art in that.
That is amazing. And of course, this is the Uncaged Goddess Collection, which is, you guys will see some of the art is above Gwen's head. The cover art, actually. Holy smokes. This book is just, this is one of those books that you're going to try to find in hard copy, and you're going to buy 2 copies. You're going to buy one to just have on your shelf, and you're going to buy ones that you can like rip the pages out and have them as art on your wall. Because they're really, and like the print quality was so, I saw like, maybe I did see a couple of print copies at Gen Con. There was a couple floating around-ish.
People were definitely carrying them around because a lot of the contributors went to Gen Con. Everyone was signing each other's books, like yearbooks, which is very cute. But yeah, there were definitely copies floating around. We weren't allowed to sell any. So anytime someone asked me, where can I buy your book? I was like, the internet. Sorry.
Yeah. That's the deal with it with some publishers, but there were copies and they are gorgeous, so if you can get your hands on a couple copies of the hardcover, and you can buy them at DM's Guild. The link is in the chat. Support indie creators, because you guys are not part of like a huge publishing cog. You guys did all this yourselves.
Yeah, all ourselves, all 70 of us.
Okay,
but yeah,
but still.
Yeah, the admin team was me, Jess Markram, David Markiski, and Laura Evans. So like literally 4 people. Jess, David, and I have since started a game studio, which is 3 whole people big. So like very, very indie.
That's and you guys hired all kinds of people from our community, which is so exciting, and such beautiful examples of art in this book. So we'll start with, tell everybody about the Uncaged anthologies, but Uncaged Goddess in particular.
Sure. So the Uncaged anthologies are a series of one-shot adventures for D&D 5e. They're all available on dmsguild.com, and they're very much the brainchild of Ashley Warren, who project led the first 4 volumes. And the first 4 volumes of the anthology were very focused on feminist retellings of classic mythological characters and monsters, beings that you would find in the monster manual with maybe not the most feminist descriptions. Like, oh, why do harpies exist? Because they were angry about a man and that sort of thing. And like, there's nothing wrong with women being monsters, but we can make them more interesting than that. Yeah. So the first 4 volumes were a lot of stories about harpies, Medusas, which are creature type, and not like a person in the monster manual. A lot of dryads, mermaids, that kind of thing. And after 4 volumes, we felt pretty confident that we had robustly explored the offerings that the monster manual had. But one creature type that Ashley really wanted to get to that we hadn't been able to yet was the official deities in the Wizards of the Coast Pantheon, which you're allowed to do for DM's Guild because you're allowed to use Wizards of the Coast IPs.
Yeah.
She was browsing the Forgotten Realms wiki and just went, Umberly, the goddess of the sea, has the title The Bitch Queen. Interesting. I'm going to put a pin in that and make it a project later. And then she never did. So I had heard about this idea as a contributor to Uncaged volumes 1 through 4, reached out to Ashley and just went, hey, are you making that book? Can I make that book? Will you stop me from making that book? And she went, you have my blessing, go for it. And I went, great. I don't know how to make a book. And then I turned around, grabbed 2 of my friends from the anthology and said, hey, let's make a book together, please. Please help me make a book. I don't know what I'm doing. And it worked out great. We brought on Laura to help wrangle all the editors, ended up with a team of 4. And it honestly was incredibly successful. I think I'm spoiled for all future projects ever now, but it was a lot of fun.
It's a hell of a way to launch like your first, you know, like not solo, but like group project where you were doing that kind of work. Is something that we're not totally unfamiliar with at Girls Run These Worlds. We had, you know, I mean, we all had reputations in the community already, so it's not like we were just a channel that started out of nowhere, but you know, we're let's see what days are days. Next Tuesday from when this tomorrow we're recording this on Monday. Tomorrow is only our 5-month anniversary. And,
oh wow.
And I have 30 shows on the air.
Nice.
Which is pretty amazing. Which is, you know, 30 dungeon mistresses or storytellers or facilitators or groundskeepers who are telling stories from a very particular point of view that they could have told those stories anywhere, but we're very specifically looking to tell those stories. So like you're right. It does spoil you for any future projects is like now going to have to live up to this bar and go no lower.
Right. We need at least 3 eddies per project from here on out.
It only goes up from there. Just, you know, ask every major studio. Okay, so this is your most recent project, but I want to go way back. How did you become a nerd?
Ooh, how did I become a nerd? I think I was born into it. I didn't choose nerddom. Nerddom found me with Trekkie parents. I know. I grew up with geeky parents. My mom helps me make cosplay stuff. My parents are both engineers. I grew up in an environment where nerdery was the standard. All of my friends' parents were also nerds. So we were all nerds. So was basically everyone at my school. Like it was weird and unpopular to be a typically popular kid.
Right.
So it, the stereotypical nerd being like, I was bullied in school for liking video games. And like, I think you were made fun of if you didn't know what Final Fantasy was like.
Just a very, I can't imagine how much like different that experience would have been. I mean, the Trek part I totally resonate with because Star Trek was like the thing that my grandpa gave to me that we would watch together. And he would take me to see all the movies in the movie theaters. And I remember going off and watching it on my own. And in grade 5, which is prime Halloween years, like grade 5 is like the height of how good you're independent enough that you don't have to walk with your mom and dad for trick-or-treating, but you're not too old to still trick-or-treat. Grade 5 is like I went as Data from Star Trek The Next Generation, and nobody at my school knew who it was. And I didn't care. I was like, wait, you're asking me, then undiagnosed autistic person, to tell you all about this character from my favorite show? Let me info dump. How long do we have?
Right.
It ended up like, I didn't care. It was great for me. But I think it's interesting that you say you were born into nerd life. About 50% of my guests, like it's an even 50-50 split, which is interesting. And having nerd parents, that's really cool. And growing up in just nerd communities, that must be, does that affect when you go into places now that aren't that community? Like when you went to, I don't know that you went to higher education, but like in a higher education setting or in like a different workplace environment where people, that's not the norm. Does that throw you?
Oh yeah. Every time. I mean, I honestly went to a pretty geeky school too. But then going out into, the real world and getting like my baby's first grown-up job in a regular corporate environment was wild to me. The main thing that one of the people who hired me wanted to talk to me about was my school's sports team. And I was like, we have those? Uh, which one? Don't ask me any follow-up questions because I don't know. Routinely getting asked, did you see the game? What game? The one saving grace is that everyone was very excited to talk about Game of Thrones, and I was like, I have heard of that. I still couldn't talk about it because it was a bit much for me.
Yeah, agree.
But I could
agree.
I knew what it was at least, so it was like I don't have to know what sports season it is.
Yes,
finally.
And it's a gateway. Like you don't have to know the whole thing. Like I agree with you. Game of Thrones for me was a bit much, and like I was just telling somebody, I can watch the entire like series of Outlander in like 2.5 days because I just fast forward through all the parts that make me uncomfortable. Like all the sex is too much for me. So I just fast forward through all of it. I can get through like the whole series in like 2.5 days. And so Game of Thrones was that for me. And like, I love Matt Smith so much. I want to see House of Dragons so much, but like, I know it's going to be, I've had so many people text me, be like, just forget that go back and watch The Crown again. Go watch Doctor Who again. It's going to be okay. You're going to get your fix.
Eventually there will be a supercut online of all the Matt Smith parts and none of the other parts. He has enough fans. TikTok will make it happen. Yeah. You don't have to worry about seeing the rest of the content.
You're right. And I love that there are those cultural touchstones that, like, I think those Lord of the Rings movies in like 2000, in the early 2000s, were that also for a lot of us. That everybody went to go see those movies. And so you had those moments of like being able to connect with normies. And I think the other piece is, and I don't know about you, but for me, I mean, as obvious by the format of the show, I just really like people. Like I'm a nerd about people. And so it doesn't matter to me foundationally if somebody is an engineer or a sports nerd or a space nerd or a TTRPG nerd. I can ask things like, what is the most exciting thing that happened in your field last year? And I may not understand their answer, but I'm going to understand their passion about their answer.
That's a good life skill. I don't want to dichotomize. You can enjoy sports and also classically geeky things.
Very true.
I'm not. I played enough sports to not get cardiovascular disease as a child and then was like, cool, I'm out.
Yeah, just enough to get that no osteoporosis. They say if every woman from the age of 5 to 26 drank a glass of milk a day and jump roped 75 times a day, we could almost cure osteoporosis. Whoa. Which is like jumping apparently does something to the bones. Like, wow. Like jump rope.
Interesting.
Which is so interesting.
Huh. All right. Well, a little too late for me to start that, I guess, but I got the milk thing covered. This is a full segue. I getting my wisdom teeth out, trigger warning for the next like 30 seconds. If you don't like surgery or teeth stuff, they had a lot of trouble getting my wisdom teeth out because I drank way too much milk as a kid. They had to break them up into tiny bits in order to take the teeth out. So that was fun. Anyway, it's over. Really you can unmute now.
Yeah. Come back. Okay. So you became a nerd at birth. It was just destined. It was predestined in the stars. What other, and you mentioned Star Trek. What about reading?
Oh, I'm an avid reader. That was definitely my gateway into geeky stuff. So I guess my two gateways were video games with Pokemon. Definitely have been like a Nintendo kid my whole life.
Right, Zelda.
And Zelda. Oh yeah. I would be wearing my Zelda earrings if I didn't only have massive over-the-ear headphones that really just made all earrings negligible. But reading for sure was a big one for me. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a like middle-income family household that could afford like regular book supplies. So I routinely, like the only thing I ever asked my parents to spend money on was Barnes and Noble. I'd go in there, I'd walk out holding a stack of books that was like a full extension of me up to my chin, being like, I'm getting these this time. And my parents would be like, all right, we know you're actually going to read all of them. So sure. Yeah. It's good for our kid, we think.
I mean, but yeah, I also better than some of the alternatives.
Yeah. Part of the reason I probably have bad vision is because as a kid, I read constantly and didn't like to turn the light on when I was reading, because if I turned the light on, that signaled that it was late in the day and I was supposed to stop and do homework. But if it wasn't late enough to turn the lights on, then I could keep reading the fun stuff. So I just read in the dark as a child, as a weird child.
Do you live, and like, I don't need specifics. Do you live like in the northern half of the States or the southern half of the States?
uh, I grew up in California, a kind of
Northern
Bay
half?
Area. So
Bay Area, okay.
yeah, technically smack dab in the middle, but identifies as NorCal.
Right? Yeah, I went
Yeah.
to high school just south of San Jose. I'm a
Ah, nice.
California kid too, and I went to high school just south of San Jose. And yes, the reason I ask is because when I was younger, I grew up in Southern Cal, like in San Diego, like in Southern
Mm.
California, and
Hmm.
so pretty much all year the sun stayed up the same amount of time. So
Mm.
like late would have been late.
Hmm.
But since moving to Canada, where like we're going into in just a couple of short weeks, well, December feels like just a couple of short weeks from now. Also, it still feels like last December, and I'm not sure how to quantify time these last couple of years. It's been very, very
Time
weird.
is fake. Yeah.
Time is weird soup. I'm sure somebody has said once. It Our shortest day here in the part of in like the northern latitude that I'm in is it doesn't get light out, like even peaking rays of light, until about 8:39 a.m. and it is
Ugh.
dark by 4.
Oh no.
Conversely, though, during the summer, it's 20 hours of light, which is
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Were you a sci-fi kid or a fantasy kid or both for your reading?
Ooh, for sure, fantasy as a kid. I have been dipping a toe into sci-fi more and more. I kind of go back and forth on it, where like there will be good sci-fi things that I really like. The Ancillary Justice trilogy is very good and is definitely sci-fi. Also, the Locked Tomb sort of counts as sci-fi. It's in space, but it's
That's
definitely
sci-fi. We'll take
I
it.
would say it is science fantasy in the way that like Star
Sure.
Wars
Yeah.
is in space, but is
Yeah.
not really sci-fi. But for sure, the fantasy stuff tends to resonate with me more than the science fiction stuff.
And what were some of your favorite series like as a kid and as a teen and now?
Um, I mean, the Lord of the Rings, like you were saying, the movies were definitely pretty formative for me. I was the right age to be incredibly taken by them, watch all of the extended edition behind the scenes thing, be like, I'm going to work for What a Workshop when I grow up.
Right.
Like everyone my age said,
Yep.
hasn't worked out yet, but there's still time.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So Lord of the Rings for sure. The Golden Sun video game series. I got a lot of opinions about this. Golden Sun, the Game Boy Advance game from 2001 and the sequel from 2003. I love them so much. The 2010 sequel bit off more than it could chew, I think. But they're very good games. They hold up. They're very cute and wholesome. I love them so much. They're a very like classic fantasy kind of set of story beats that they then subvert in interesting ways. And honestly, it's like the best narrative experience I've had from a Game Boy Advance game. The soundtrack is amazing. It's made Mario Golf my enemy, because Camelot makes Mario Golf in addition to having made Golden Sun. And every time they announce a new Mario Golf game, I'm just like, oh, that means there wasn't a new Golden Sun. Exactly. Yeah.
Is it are those games part of the, like right now on the Nintendo Switch, if you have like Nintendo Online, you can get the
No.
What?
Nobody cares except for me and like 6 other people.
We're starting a Twitter campaign. Nintendo, you cowards.
Yeah.
Release the good content.
The 20th anniversary of the first game was last year.
Come on.
They could have done something.
And everybody was locked in. It's not like we could have done anything else.
Right? We had the perfect time for there to be a Game Boy Advance remaster for this very long RPG. It is one game that is split across 2 cartridges in the classic, PlayStation 1 style, where they were just like, game's too big, gotta have lots of discs.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm not saying to anybody who's watching this stream that you should go do something else. But after 20 years, I'm certain that it's public domain somewhere in somebody's laws. So we're not trying to take money. They're not trying to take our money. We're not trying
I wish they would take my money.
Yeah, we're not trying to withhold money from them. We would gladly.
Yeah, I'm trying to give them money for Golden Sun, and they won't let me anymore. Anyway, Golden Sun is a very good video game. If you can acquire it somehow, I strongly encourage having a good time with it.
Golden Sun.
It's got really good music, fun character designs, a a fun set of puzzles. It's a lot of puzzle dungeon-y type things.
Love it.
And a JRPG combat system that's classic but interesting.
One of my mods that's watching has already put this in chat. I'm sure they have already. They're so good at like when we mention stuff to put this stuff in chat. So I love that.
Excellent. Thank you, mods.
What was the best Zelda? This is the closest thing we're going to get to controversy on tonight's show.
All right.
What was the best
Hot
Zelda?
spicy take? Breath of the Wild is very, very good. I'm going to throw that out there. It might be the best one. It's also very different from the other ones. So I will say that I think the best kind of classic Zelda, in my opinion, is A Link Between Worlds, the 3DS one, which is a very like classic set of, it's like 2D Zelda. Right. And they do a very good job modernizing it so that the gameplay feels fun and intuitive rather than, you know, like repetitive that you can kind of get with like the properly old ones.
Right.
The graphics are very cute. The characters are very wholesome and great. The story is fun and exciting. And I think Ocarina of Time is overrated. It's fine. It was good for its time. And we've had 30 years since then, 25 years since it happened. Mods, you can clip that. I'm not afraid to speak the truth. Ocarina of Time is fine and was very good at the time. And we've moved on as a society and can do better now. That's my hot take.
I'm just going to go Google what the original Zelda was because it had an ocarina in it, but I don't think it was Ocarina of Time. It was like the original Zelda. I think it was just called Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening. That was the first one that I played, like, you know, 89, 90. I was playing it like as my brother was being born. So that would have been 91. So on like the original like cinder block Game Boy, that was my jam. I loved that. I would have played, there was one that came out in like maybe 2000, 2001 for the Cube?
Wind Waker?
Maybe. And it was 3D. It was like a fully like immersive 3D game played like
was it really cartoony looking?
Yeah.
First
And it
person.
was cell shading and stuff. And it was like,
yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't first person, it was third person, but it wasn't from above. It wasn't like 8-bit style.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fine, but it wasn't Zelda to me. Anyway, I'm not trying to make a hot take. It just wasn't Zelda to me. But we have the Switch, and I got my daughter Breath of the Wild for Christmas. And I say got my daughter, but I bought it for myself and justified it by putting it in her stocking. And it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's a great game. I will say Wind Waker is very good also. I think unlike a lot of other games that got HD remasters, the Wind Waker HD remaster is actually to the game's benefit. Graphics are a little bit improved and they took out some of the mechanics that were the most annoying.
Yeah, there was I remember there was parts that were like particularly like finicky. Like if you didn't do this, you had to go back to like 3 resets before to like do it in a particular order. And I can't handle stuff like that. That's work for play. And
yeah,
that's not my type of game.
That's fair. But the Wind Waker HD remake, I think might be on the Wii U. So, you know, that might be a reason to not play it because who has a Wii U anymore? But if you do have the ability to play it, it is a very fun game. The gameplay itself is very smooth and satisfying.
The best game that I've played on a Nintendo, the best game experience. I don't know that it was the best game, but it was like the coolest concept. And speaking like to a TTRPG designer, it was the coolest concept for a game. And it was, I don't remember what it was called. I'll Google it in a minute. You had to have like Game Boy 3DS maybe. Yeah, it was 3DSs. And they plugged into your GameCube and they were the controllers. And it was a cooperative game. Everybody's 3DS had a different piece of the map. So somebody had like the roads and the topography. Somebody had all the treasure chests. Somebody had all the monster dots. And you had to play together to get through the game.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, it was so
good. That reminds me of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, but I don't remember
It was Crystal Chronicles.
Okay.
It was Crystal Chronicles. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I was going to say, I didn't remember the specific mechanic for that because this is going to sound sad. I didn't have any friends to play with it. or play it with. But that's just because we were all playing Smash Bros. Like anytime we were together.
Of
So
course.
it wasn't that
Yep.
I didn't have friends. It was that my friends had other priorities.
Of course. We
Yeah.
outlawed Smash Bros in my house because my husband is hardcore tactician of button mashing, and it
Mm.
drives me crazy that he can play Pikachu and just win with button mashing and no
Ooh.
strategy. And
Ooh.
I'm a poor loser, so we just don't play Smash Bros.
That's fair.
Preserve our
Yeah.
marriage.
You got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you need the inner strength to recognize about yourself,
Hmm.
I'm bad for competitive games.
Yeah.
It's not that
Yeah.
I'm bad at them, it's that they are bad for
Yeah.
me and I am bad for them.
Yes. He's giggling in the other room hearing me tell that story. So that's special for
Good.
him. Okay. So what is the link from Nintendo and fantasy and book reading into TTRPG for you?
I need to point it out. I assume someone in chat already has, but the link, get it
Hey,
like Zelda. Anyway,
I didn't get it, but that's a good one. That was not
yeah,
a
I
good
mean,
one.
I think there's a pretty kind of clear path that I took that was just, I like fantasy stuff. I wish I were an elf. I could be an elf in D&D.
Right.
And there's your in. So yeah, my trajectory definitely went from enjoying fantasy stuff to hearing about people who would play fantasy games in the real life and
Right.
get to act out being the characters that I enjoyed seeing
Yeah.
on my TV screen or my Game Boy screen or reading in my books. And then hearing about that, I was very taken with the idea for a long time before I actually got to play a D&D game because I was very busy with
Right.
everything else going on in life. You know how it is.
I do.
But I did eventually, I get to play my first ever game of D&D is not done yet because it was a Curse of Strahd campaign that meets about once every 14 months. I have
Strahd.
finished a lot of other games since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny that my very first D&D game is
It's
technically still
ongoing.
going.
That's
Yeah.
that's really beautiful. Strahd is not for me.
It's a lot.
I think it's such a beautiful game, and that I love that there is so much accessible content for anybody who wants any type of game. And I was just talking to somebody earlier, and like I get that Wizards of the Coast does have, some things that they're still trying to improve upon,
Mhm.
and some things that rightly they need to be called out for. No equivocating around that. I think 5e in particular is most open rule set that is the most accessible. And I know this is a hot take, and I
Mhm.
know people will be upset, but if Matt Mercer can create Exandria in the same rule set that Brennan Lee Mulligan and Abria have created, the madness that is the Dimension 20 campaigns,
Mhm.
and that everybody can create their own worlds within kind of these larger lores, and like D&D goes head to head against Monopoly for like the amount of homebrew rules. Like nobody plays D&D the same way at any two tables. It could be the
Mhm.
exact same group of people, it's two separate different groups of rules, from game to game to game. Like every system, every player plays it differently. And I think I'm a huge fan of D&D, and for me as a person, as a player, as a DM, um I love some of the other rules. There's things that I've taken from other rule sets, like the messy success out of Powered by the Apocalypse was like a
Mhm.
revelation to how I DM. Um
Mhm.
but I like D&D for me. I've dabbled in some other stuff. I keep coming back to D&D. I just keep coming back to it.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see what 1 D&D looks like
Yeah.
after all the playtesting.
Yes. I
Because it is true that 5e is very much like a gold standard
Yeah.
currently for like classic tabletop RPGs.
Yes.
And so it will be interesting to see how that improves or evolves.
Yeah. I mean, I I took 1 D&D to like our home game, and I was like, what do you guys think? How would this change your characters? Like, let's talk about it. And
Mhm.
I think what it has done is, at least the very early stuff that they've released, which is mostly just like backgrounds right now,
Yeah.
is that really it makes more interesting the first 5 levels of a campaign. Like
Mhm.
some people skip to level 5 and start at level 5 because the first 5 is just a grind. Like it's fun because you
Yeah.
get to level up more frequently, but it is just a grind. Like this gives you could play a whole campaign and never make it to level 1 with the richness of backgrounds
Mhm.
that they've introduced. And I am excited for the possibility of a levelless campaign because
Mm.
I'm already milestone and like also I do leveling up different. I do leveling up before the big thing happens because I think that that's true in real life. Like you wanted to go do this Uncaged Goddess anthology. You didn't have the skills. You developed the skills, and then the book and now future projects are you putting into practice the level of skill that you have. You leveled
Mhm.
up, and then you learn how to optimize that level, and then you level up again, and then you optimize the level. So when I level up my players, I level them up, and that's how they know something big is about to happen. It's not like
Mm.
roll for initiative. It's like, oh, you leveled up, you have 15 minutes while I go refill my drink, and then we're going, and it's going to be
Oh
messy,
boy.
and that's okay. You don't need to do it perfect. That I think is a more authentic experience, of
Mhm.
from a role play heavy perspective. um I agree with you. I'm I agree with you. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. My
um
my one sadness is that since one D&D, it also makes sense that they'd be prioritizing low level stuff
right.
because, you know, it's easy to jump into low level things for a playtest. My one sadness is that tier 4 is fun. And I made a whole book about it. Uncaged Goddesses is tier 4 adventures. I forgot to say earlier. It's a book of all tier 4 one shots. And it's fun and nobody gets to play in it. And so a part of me is like, man, I hope they're not doubling down on just early level play because it's fun to be able to do the high level stuff that you
Yeah.
don't get to do very often. You can go to different planes. You can see like you
Yeah.
you can go to the plane of fire because you won't die instantly.
Yes.
Um, you can interact with a whole like category of being that you were
Yeah.
not qualified to deal with before.
Yeah.
You can use the capstones that you see on the list in the player's handbook, and you're like, man, it would be cool if I could do that someday.
Yeah.
And most other adventures cut you off at 12, so
Yeah.
you never get a chance to get close.
Yeah. um
Anyway.
I will say, I'll just take a pause for a moment and address the audience that it is to the shame and dearth of the greater community that nobody has bothered to pitch an Uncaged Goddess actual play to us here at Girls Run These Worlds. And as a founder and CEO here, newly announced, we've just rearranged our directorship council.
Ooh.
We will greenlight it. You submit the creator app, and JC Darcy and I will go through and get. We have some openings this fall. So please submit this. We would love to be streaming this actual play.
Yeah.
Please, somebody go
If you
submit
want
this.
if you want to pick people's brains about it, Jess Markham and I not only, you know, made the book,
Yeah.
but also Jess put together all of the Goddesses episodes for our Friday night show
Yes.
that we do because we were
Yes.
playing through all the Uncaged anthology and have been for the past 2.5 years because there's a lot of adventures. But yeah, Jess has already done a lot of the legwork for linking adventures together for you.
See? So there you go. There's no excuses. We want that creator app in, please, by the end of tonight's show. Thank you. Okay. You had mentioned earlier cosplay. Talk to me
Mhm.
about cosplay.
I miss it. That's the first thing I'll say is that I haven't cosplayed in a while. So it is a lot of fun. I enjoy it greatly, and I just haven't had the time or workspace space to do anything. That said, cosplaying was definitely my first encounter with like nerd communities rather than just being a nerd who has friends who are nerds. Like going to conventions and meeting fellow nerds in a space dedicated to nerds, having a obvious identifier on your person being like, these are the things I'm into, talk to me about that.
Yeah.
It's great. Honestly, I think everyone should try out cosplaying for no other reason than that it gives you some life skills that they don't really teach in most schools anymore, like sewing.
Yes. Yeah.
But also, it is a great way to make friends in the area. Like, do a cosplay meetup. Nobody cares if your costume isn't like Yaya Han levels of good. You
Right.
can make a bad or okay cosplay. You can go to Spirit Halloween and wear that outfit. And
Yes.
as long as you're like having a good time,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
Yeah.
But it is a very good built-in conversation starter and in to talking to other people.
Yes.
Because people will want to talk to you about the costume that you're wearing and about the show that you represent or the game you represent. And you'll have an in for talking to other people
Yeah.
who are also into that because yeah.
Yeah. I've had several cosplayers on, and the other thing that my cosplayers who like identify as introverts, they say that the other thing that cosplay affords them is being able to go to a convention or to a nerd space
Mm-hmm.
and not feel pressure or insecurity about themselves because they get to be
Mm.
this character. And I thought that was such an interesting and beautiful way for people who don't always feel comfortable in public spaces to find that kind of security.
Mm-hmm.
We watched it, so we also went to Gen Con this year, and it was our first time at Gen Con because previously we lived on the West Coast, so like Emerald City Comic Con was like the thing that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter had come with us this year for the first time, and when I kind of pitched them the idea of like, hey, we should maybe for our family vacation we should go to a nerd convention, and I thought I was going to have to talk them into it, and she went, well, can I cosplay? And I was like, yes,
Yes.
yes, you can. Mommy will spend whatever money it takes to get you to agree to come to this thing with me. And she was like, great. And she cosplayed as a character from the video game that she adores, from her favorite character from her favorite video game. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the best costume. Like we bought a couple things on Shein, we had a couple
Yeah.
things in our, but it was the best that we could put together in the time. And with like, we don't have a sewing machine, we don't have a lot of those skills, we don't have a lot of time, we don't have all the money in the world. um and when we got there, there was a wig, there was a wig place, and so we were able to, it just so happened that they had the wig for this character,
Mm-hmm.
which was even better. And she spent legitimately, she's only 13, so we never left her unsupervised. That's not good
Mm-hmm.
parenting. But we could have just left her at the entrance there where like all the cosplayers line up. She would have been fine to just spend 4 days there. And she was like in character the whole time. She was bowing to people as her character and
Oh,
interacting with other people. And like, it was just so cool to see her like 13 is,
it's hard to be 13. The only thing worse than being 13 is being 12.
or 14. I feel like,
Mm.
yeah. I teach middle school because I, I, and I had an okay experience in middle school, but still, like, I teach it so that it can be the best that it can be. I think that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons I love teaching middle school so much. But she just came alive. So I'm always curious to talk to cosplayers about it. Have you ever done LARPing?
I have not. That's actually one of the few areas of nerddom that I haven't dipped a toe into. And I think part of the reason is, just time and energy. Another part of the reason is that you were mentioning that introverted cosplayers enjoy being able to be their character instead of themselves.
Right.
I always came at it from the other angle where I was like, I'll pretend to be this character for the duration of the photo, and then I'm back to being me.
Yes.
So I actually have a hard time like staying in character in a contained way. So LARPing has always sounded very challenging to me. I think I would have a good time if friends got me to go do the thing.
Right.
But as far as like self-starting, I just haven't had the time or like the spell slots necessary to like initiate that for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think from what I've heard from other people, and just kind of, I think it is kind of general knowledge in the TTRPG circles that we're in, is
Mhm.
really your LARP experience is going to depend on the LARP group that you're with, because
So
there are
much.
some really
Yeah.
great, not great groups, and some really excellent groups,
Mhm.
especially as women and femme identifying people. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I think in all areas of life, unfortunately, but this is one where there's still really a long road to a universally equitable and good system for everybody. So yeah, I get that. Um,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're running out of time. I
Oh
hate
no.
this part. It goes so quick, Gwen. I told you, it
Yeah.
goes so quick.
I
Um,
haven't even gotten to spread the good word about Shar.
uh, Talk about Shar.
Shar is one of the goddesses and uncaged goddesses. She's the neutral evil aligned goddess from the Forgotten Realms pantheon,
Mhm.
who basically there was like AO who created everything, including Shar and Saloon, the sister goddesses.
Wait,
Saloon
I
was
gotta
the
stop
goddess
you.
of, yeah.
To my players from my home game and from my Phandalin by Night game on Vancouver by Night, if you're watching this, I'm gonna need you to go earmuffs,
I'll give
because
you,
Saloon
I'll
and
give a thumbs
Shar
up.
are indebted into the mythology
Ooh.
of our game. and just quiet time.
I'll thumbs up when you can come back.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Go.
So Saloon and Shar were the two goddesses who together created the entire rest of the universe. Saloon was officially the goddess of the moon, and Shar was functionally the goddess of everything else. The dark space in between the pinpricks of night sky stars. They made the universe, all the planets, all that jazz. And then Shar was like, we're good. It's perfect. And Saloon went, what if life was a thing? And Shar was like, what the fuck? No, you're messing it up. And that's why they started fighting. And over the course of them fighting, they like casually spun off a bunch of other deities, you know, the gods of like murder and war and magic, spun off as side effects as these two ultra powerful deities were fighting about what to do with the universe as we know it. Shar's very, very powerful, very cool, very old, goddess of like loss, secrets, darkness, all that jazz. Her Forgotten Realms official wiki art looks like a level 14 Ragnarok Online rogue, and the quote about her is a Baldur's Gate 3 quote from a hag that's like, Shar can't hear us here. She's too busy writing sad poetry about how everyone prefers her sister over her, and the disrespect. I am so mad about it. That was my my inciting incident for why Uncaged Goddesses happened. I read the Forgotten Realms article and was just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You give me this, wizards. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, you can come back, players.
Yes, Saloon is one of the patron deities of one of my home game players. And so I have a home game on Saturday, and then I DM for, we call it Phandalin by Night. It is a Lost Mines of Phandelver stream on Vancouver by Night, which is Vampire the Masquerade content, but I run the D&D content, so we named it Phandalin by Night, like in homage. But it's a D&D game for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. We're nominated for a Gamers Award. Please go vote. So what happens in my home game directly affects the events that happen in our stream, in a stream game, which is like a totally different cast. And so that's like really wild to me that I get to see those connections. But Saloon in particular and Shar, and some of the very specifics, we've been playing for three years. So there is some like influence into the ways that you guys have expanded the knowledge around Saloon and Shar. But a lot of it was kind of built on those original like archetypes that I saw like in the Forgotten Realms wiki. And those ideas that are, 20 years old around Shar being bad and Saloon being good, but what's the opposite way to play those tropes, and they're sisters, so it's not there is no sisterhood. I'm just going to think before I make this statement. I don't think there's any sisterhood that it is as simple as one is good and one is bad. They are sisters, and that indelibly complicates the relationship. So in Uncaged Goddesses, Kat Evans, the author of the Shar adventure, did a really cool take on the Dark Moon heresy, which is a real piece of Wizards lore, which is that apparently a cult basically believes that Shar and Saloon are actually the same goddess. And like everyone agrees that they're wrong, but also they still get cleric powers. So what's going on there? And I think that's neat. It's one little good bit of Shar lore. Oh God, Shar and Saloon are some of the best. Okay. Have you ever DM'd? Are you like?
Oh yeah.
Do you prefer to DM or do you prefer to play?
Honestly, I prefer whichever one I haven't done more recently.
Okay.
Yeah, I like bouncing back and forth between the two. It's nice to be the person in charge of the game, to like be like, I've cultivated a playlist for this moment. I know what's happening. Get to play all the NPCs and stuff. But it's also nice to just sit down and be like, tell me a story, DM. What will happen today? So I like both sides of the table, and I'm fortunate enough that my IRL play group kind of generally feels similarly. So we get to rotate who DMs. Yeah. So I'm DMing a Descent into Avernus game right now. My players are a tech startup and they've gone to hell to do business, and it's working out alarmingly well for them, perhaps unsurprisingly, but yeah. So that's fun. And then up next, another friend is going to be DMing the Spelljammer adventure, and I get to play a Cleric of Shar. Finally.
What subclass are you going to play?
So Cleric of Shar, I am eyeing a couple different domains. In my opinion, she should have access to all of them because she's one of the primordial deities. However, I recognize that some of them make more sense than others. I'm leaning Twilight. but we'll see.
Twilight would be interesting. I most recently have played a order domain cleric, and I played her. Have you read the first off, let me do a disclaimer that this is a horrible book series that has very problematic story structure and characters, and nobody should read it. But it is a really interesting kind of character idea and world building exercise. It's the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind.
I have not. I've seen it on bookshelves everywhere and always been like,
it's
eh.
The bad guy is like, so every TTRPG safety form that you've ever filled in that's like, would you be okay with like harm to children? And you're like, no, let's move past the bad guy who needs to show that they're bad by harming children. This is that, like, it leads into all of those like negative tropes. And so I don't like that. But in the early 2000s, the prime time of sci-fi television or fantasy-based television, because nobody had the Weta budget, but everybody wanted to jump on that bandwagon. There was a 2-season run filmed by the same people who did like Hercules and Xena, and it was filmed in New Zealand and Australia, I think, and it like filmed in the same spot and everything. And it's called The Legend of the Seeker series, and the main female character is she's a confessor, and for more or less she is a little bit like a cleric. She does have some kind of like divine power. She acts as like a circuit judge, because what her divine power grants her is basically like, it's a little bit like Zone of Truth, but also zombie. So if she casts Zone on Truth to her, you are confessed to her service for the rest of your life. And so she can't use it very often, because obviously, like, if you agree, if there's, he stole my pig, no, he stole my pig, and one of you agrees to be confessed, the truth will come out, but you're never going back to your lifestyle, because in order for the truth to happen, there is like this ultimate sacrifice. And I just think like that's such a meaty character type. And so I played an order domain cleric, and I have a goal that I would like to stream every single cleric subclass, because clerics are the best.
I've never played a cleric before. This will be my first time.
Clerics are the best.
I didn't know anything about the D&D pantheon until I made a book about it. And now I only know the femme evil deities. That's it.
Clerics are pound for pound. Oh, and this cleric was not even a divine cleric. She believed so strongly in the power of the collective. She was like the ultimate like Star Trek person. She believed so powerfully in the collective that it granted her certain divine rights, which was interesting. Okay. So you sometimes DM, sometimes play. Can you show me pretty dice?
Absolutely.
This works best if you hold it up against your palm, and then like get it as close to the camera as you can.
All right. So we're going to start with my DMing dice, which are from Wizards. They're beautiful and they roll up terribly, which is why they're my DMing dice. You are wizards.
You are wizards. Thank you. Somebody in one of my mods will put the link in.
Here's the whole collection. Here they are. They're very shiny in real life.
Pretty.
Yeah, covering my face so you can see them. So I got a pink set and I got a green set, and they're gorgeous. And like, let me pull up one. So they have like, a cute little like design around the actual number.
What? And they've got like the inclusion, like the cellophane inclusion.
Yeah. So they're just a very classic hello.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's unfocused.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're beautiful. I love them.
Yeah.
These ones I have to show off. These are Dispel dice, the Unseelie Court set.
Yes.
Which my friend Jess got for me at Gen Con right after we were like, let's start a game studio and call it Unseelie Studios. Focus, please. Hello. It's whatever. I'm trying my best. It's focusing very well on my hands.
They're so gorgeous. I bought 2 sets at Gen Con, my only 2 sets of Dispel, and I would agree. Webcam's never going to do them justice. Like,
it's true.
Oh,
they're so beautiful in person. I also have to give a special shout out. First of all, this is my dice box. So like there's barely room for rolling. We have a color palette. We are sticking to it.
Yeah.
But I have to give a shout out to this Elderwood Academy hex that lives in my purse, so that I am always ready to DM with my rainbow mini metal dice.
Hey.
Here they are. Hang on. they're like anodized rainbow.
Oh
So
yeah, and
they're very pretty.
minis.
Yeah, so they're very pleasing to hold.
Who makes
Because
those?
they're
Do you remember?
they might also be Elderwood Academy. Hang on,
Mm.
there's a thing. Yeah, it's the D6 has the Elderwood logo on it, so
Right.
it is
Elderwood Academy.
Elderwood still. But not
One
that
of
you
my
can tell.
mods will put the link for that in chat. We love
Mhm.
mini dice. We love them.
Yes, I love them
And
so much. They do
they're
come.
good weight.
Yeah, so like holding the entire set is very satisfying. I enjoy just kind of holding them all in my hand, just like having a rustle. But yeah, I appreciate them because they're metal and mini, so you get the satisfaction of thing that you like but tiny.
Yeah.
But also because of the metal heft, I don't feel like I'm going to accidentally launch them off the table and into space the way I do with mini plastic dice, which the hex does come with. You do get a set of mini dice to fill it, but like it's the standard resin ones. So somewhere I have the purple plastic ones that it came with, but they might be in orbit now because I gently brushed them once upon a time, and now they're at least a town over. So who's to say?
I will say that like my Dispel dice are like my really pretty expensive pair of high heels that I have that I will never wear because they're impractical. But they look really nice on in my shoe rack. And my dice, my Dispel dice, they're so light. Nobody prepared me. Because they're big. They're not like a standard dice size. They're chunky.
They're a little bit bigger, I think.
They are a little bit bigger than like standard dice. And like they're so light, which I know some people really love. Barely There, like a cloud dice. I get it. But I like heft. And I like something that like clanks against the side of the wood in my rolling box. So they're beautiful to sit on my desk, and I love looking at them. But I don't really play. Also, I'm so afraid that I'm gonna like blunt the edge.
Oh, I honestly, so
really
I've been rolling these. So the Herb Wizards also, the ones that I showed off first. Are sharp edge. Yeah. And I have to say, they are gorgeous, but I wish I were blunting the edges faster because rolling some of these in my hands gets itchy because they're too sharp. So like the D4s, oh boy, these are deadly. This is too sharp. Do you see this? It's too sharp.
Yeah, and I will say for people who haven't seen like the Dispel dice, how they package their dice, they are gorgeous to be packed. Oh gosh, now I'm upside down. But their D4, let me see. This is an all clear set with just like gold inclusion. Their D4, they package under the rest of the thing because it's so sharp that they have to package it underneath. But this is the closest thing to like a Shar and Saloon combined deity. It's not going to show.
Yeah, I doubled down on Shar only.
Yes, yeah, fair enough. So yes, okay. And so you said Elderwood, you said Dispel,
and You Are Wizards.
And You Are Wizards. We'll get all the links to those in chat because we love to support all of the other nerdy dice companies and the other nerdy stuff. Is there any other like dice and dice cases and things? What other nerd adjacent stuff? Posters, stickers, art, t-shirts, what other bags, what other nerd adjacent stuff do you have?
Ooh, I have a lot of earrings that I was not prepared to show off, so I don't have any of them. They are all downstairs. But yeah, I feel like the nerd stuff that I gravitate toward is the kind that is stealth nerd gear. And so I have a lot of like geeky jewelry, if you know that it's geeky. Yeah. I have a set of necklaces that are like the spiritual stones from Ocarina of Time, the good but overrated Zelda game. Yeah. And so if you're just looking at them, you can just be like, oh, that's a neat pendant that you have. But if you know, you're like, is that the Goron ruby? And that's the kind of nerd gear I like. So a lot of it is jewelry.
Yeah, I love that.
I want more dice accessories than I've allowed myself to purchase. So try to limit it. I do have that Critical Role like spell scroll dice holder tray thing that they had because I was just like, ooh. But in general, I limit myself to. It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mostly just use this dice box that my partner made for me, which is great.
Oh, they
Yeah.
made it for you.
Yeah. So that was nice. I
That's
mean,
very
made it.
sweet.
Bought a box at Michael's, felt lined it, and stained it a darker color.
That's me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that counts. 100%
Yeah.
that
It's
counts.
crafty. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a glass desk, and so I have to have something to roll on. And so my husband, in fact, it's here in front of me. My husband did get me the spell scroll
Ooh,
from
yeah.
Critical Role a year ago, maybe a couple years ago for Christmas when I got my desk. And then at Gen Con, I had big girl money, and I found myself at the Wormwood booth.
Ooh, dangerous.
And then I walked straight from the Wormwood booth to the Dispelled Dice booth all the way across the convention floor. Goodbye,
Yeah,
budget.
I was very good. I was very good at Gen Con. I did not buy a bunch of fancy dice things. I had this in my bag the whole time. And I was like, I have dice ready to go. I have my Purple Heartwood box with my mini metal dice, and I'm ready. And Jess and I went together, Jess Markram, co-owner 2/3 of Unseelie Studios, helped make Uncaged Goddesses, same Jess I've been talking about all night. We went to Gen Con together. Yeah. And she said at the beginning, make sure you have dice ready to go so that you don't buy more dice. And I was like, all right. So I walked with her to 3 different dice tables as she bought cat dice. And I was like, Jess, are you buying dice? Do you not have dice in your bag already? Like I do, like you told me to?
Yeah.
I'm calling her out. She's not here to stop me.
She's not here to stop you. Definitely. I'm with you on well, first off, I also knew that part of me going was to buy dice. Like I budgeted, I can't say that I stayed within my budget, but we had last minute change of plans, and which resulted in us doing a 25-hour road trip rather than flights. And we saved so much money from our return of the flights that I only spent $100, which is less than what my original budget was. But that means that I did spend all of the flight money on.
Yeah, that's like one Dispel dice set.
Yeah. And yeah, like the undercover thing, I totally get it. One of the earring sets that I have is the and I know it's a problematic piece, but it was really it was a book that really resonated with me, was Ready Player One. And I have the I got them from Hot Topic, shout out Hot Topic, the Ready Player One like keys that that he had to earn to get to the end boss.
Oh.
And they're really
I don't know what those look like, but I believe you that they look cool.
They just look like little like keys that nobody would know, except for they have very specific designs. And I have a couple of times somebody's come up and went, "Those are Ready Player One keys," and those are the best. Yeah. It's like going in cosplay, but then it happens in real life, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
yes, you will.
But sometimes it happens in real life where it's like a standoff, and neither one of you wants to be the one to break the. Yeah, so like someone's just like that's someone's like, nice necklace, and you're like, nice how? And like, it's pretty.
Yeah, the audience can't see. You can see because we're on Zoom, and my Zoom is cropped in Community Cleric. But this poster back here, the one that says Fandolin by Night, sat over here on this shelf for a long time. And I had started a new job in February, and it took until about May. And my coworker went, I just have to ask, like, because we had joined a work call early before anybody else. And he was like, I just have to ask, do you know anything about Dungeons and Dragons? And I was like, I do know about Dungeons and Dragons. What gave it away? Like, I haven't outrightly tried to be a nerd around it. And he was like, well, you have something that says Fandolin, and that's a city in Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, it is a city in Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk about it. And so, yeah, but like he had sat and we had 20, maybe 30 Zoom calls where he had seen that poster before he worked up the courage to ask me about it. So yeah, love that. Okay, we're almost out of time. We're out of time. If I'm being honest with you, give the audience a couple people who they should follow. My mods will go and link the people in Twitter. A couple people who you think are just good beings, good humans in the space. And while you're thinking about that, because I catch people off guard with this question, and it's a big question and people sometimes shut down. Let me just say to Gwen's friends and family and people that she's worked with, I did not prep Gwen with this information. And if she does not name you, that's not because she doesn't love you. It's because this question throws people at the end of an hour-long interview, which is exhausting. So Gwen is
Well
frantically
said.
opening Twitter to go through her followers
I
to
sure
try
am.
and figure this out. Yeah, it's totally okay. And I'm not doing this to like catch anybody off guard. There's just always, you know, a couple of good people, and we always need to shout out good people.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to cheat even further and just look at the Uncaged Goddesses Discord as my inspiration.
Do so.
But yeah, I will shout out Jess Markram because I've already talked about her so much. Miss_Jess03 on Twitter, my co-collaborator for Uncaged Goddesses, and also 1/3 of Unseelie Studios, along with me. And the next person to shout out, David Markiewski, who is the secret sauce behind the success of Uncaged Goddesses, as well as every other project I've worked on, and is the other 1/3 of Unseelie Studios. His Twitter handle is just David Markiewski. He does not have enough Twitter followers. Part of that is because he does not pursue that. Part of the reason why he is a good egg. I will also shout out some cool writers and artists from Uncaged Goddesses, and not inclusive even a little bit, but Sebastian Yue was an MVP editor for us. They are amazing. Definitely check them out. They are good people. We got Ange Katakemi, one of the illustrators, did the Shar adventure for Uncaged Goddesses. Check her out if you like gorgeous art. Here's what
I'm going to ask. What website can people go to find
Uncaged Anthology
of the amazing people? Because we should follow all of them.
It's true. Please follow all 70 people who worked on this book. You should check out, I would say, uncagedanthology.com, but now I'm thinking that it's possible that we might not have a full list of people on it, which is fine. This isn't airing for several days. I can message David right after this recording and be like, hey, I have a time-sensitive edit to the website.
Time to update.
But yeah, definitely not all of the contributors are on Twitter, probably for the best. I would just generally recommend not being on Twitter if you have the option.
Sure.
But yeah, good call not letting me just call out all of the other contributors, because we would be here for another full duration.
And also it'll be easier for my mods if they could just
post
a link to like a website. So that'll be better.
Uncagedanthology.com. We'll have a link by the time the stream goes up. But yeah, special shout outs to Saga, who does a million maps. If you want a good map, check her out, because she's good people. And I'm gonna short circuit on this. Laura Evans is the last one I'm gonna call out. They're the final collaborator in the set of 4 people who ran the book. So check them out. And I'll stop now because I've got 67 other names. I could keep going.
and everybody does. And I've had people message me after and be like, on the YouTube link, could we just add a couple more people? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we can do that. So that's fine. Thank you so much for being my guest and for coming and just talking to me.
Yeah,
I so appreciate this.
This was so fun.
It goes so quick. Like, I try to warn people, but
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I hope it went quick for you, but it always goes quick for me. It's always a delight for me. Thank you to our audience, to the VOD squad who's going to see this later or on YouTube down the line, when, I don't know, the next big Unseelie court press. I saw your Mysterio tweet earlier.
We've got many of those
projects.
Right now. Yeah, we've got a big project coming, and I will continue to be mysterious, but I will say that our mysteriousness ends the end of September. So that's our official deadline. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work on a project, and also standard business things like getting registered as a business. End of September is when we are officially announcing our project. And so if you want to know more about that, check out Unseelie Studios on Twitter.
There you go. Definitely go and follow, because a rising tide raises all boats. Nobody's in competition. Like, more voices is more voices for everybody. So thank you for being my guest, Gwen. Everybody go and follow. Links in the chat again, wherever that is. And we will see you. Actually, I have a special, I was going to say next Thursday, but actually next Tuesday, the 27th, I am doing a special Community Cleric collaboration with Creators Assemble. I will be over on their channel interviewing Jade Valkyrie, who is an incredible academic and writes about TTRPG and how it positively impacts people's lives. And so I'm going to go interview Jade Valkyrie for Creators Assemble on their channel on Tuesday. And then next Thursday, I have, gosh, this is why I should have my calendar in front of me at all times for all reasons.
Oh, no.
Thursday, the 29th, is Joe, who is on our Roll for Luck campaign here on Girls Run These Worlds. They are at Scary Dog Friend, which is a very good Twitter handle. If you're going to be on Twitter, that's a very good Twitter handle. Thanks, everybody, for being here with us. We will see you all Tuesday and then next week. Bye.
Bye.